very much. So, thank you. It's a hell of a crowd. This is great. I just traveled 3.5 hours on a big, fat, beautiful plane to get here. I had to be here. And this is an amazing group of people, and I thank you. And I thank you for the support. But, you know, I love you, too. I love you. I do. Thank you, Hort. But, you know, I love you, too. You know what I'm going to say to start off? Merry Christmas, right? And happy holiday. You know what I'm going to say to start off? Happy Merry Christmas, right? And happy holiday. We don't hear it. So this is all about Christmas and having a good holiday, and that's what it's all about. Do you ever notice you don't hear that anymore? It's very sad. You go to these stores and they say something, they put whatever they put up, but they don't say Merry Christmas. They'll start saying Merry Christmas again, folks, believe me. Believe me. So you probably saw what happened yesterday with Fox, right? Did everybody see? So we had the debate. I had one guy come at me with sound bites from his pollster. It was so sad to watch him. So sad. Come at me with sound bites from his pollster. No, it was just. It was so sad to watch him. So sad. Bush. Close to incompetent. You look at that. No, it was just sad. I mean, it's like his piece, but he doesn't show my. Close to incompetent. You look at that. It was terrible. And then he does an ad where it's his piece, but he doesn't show my piece. Because my piece is what killed him. But his piece, and then they cut it. I said, where's my piece? No, yeah, he's a tough guy, right? He's tough. Oh, and then they're accusing me. Putin called him brilliant. That's not good. Well, you know, isn't it sort of nice if, like, countries that we're always fighting with, maybe we get along and let them do, right? I mean, look, you know, we're all tough guys, but wouldn't it be nice if, like, Russia and us could knock out an enemy together, not us bear the full cost sometimes? Like, you know, we're always fighting. But I've had some guys say, oh, Russia. How about one of the people up in the city? I wouldn't talk to them. I wouldn't discuss anything. I wouldn't talk. What do they want to do? They want to have a World War III. Okay? World War III. For what? For what? And they have problems. We all have problems. Russia's got plenty of problems. But I'll tell you what, if Putin likes me and if he thinks I'm a good, smart person, which, I mean, I hope he believes it, I am. Actually, he's right. I am brilliant. You know that, right? But you know what? If he says something positive, that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. They try and turn it around. And it's not to be turned around. This is good. This would be a great start if you think about it. The money we spend on fighting everybody. And we have to rebuild our country. It's so important. It's so vital. We have to rebuild our hospitals and our everything. Our roads, our airports. Our country's a mess. Our bridges. Did you see a report? 61% of them are in trouble. What does that mean? You're driving across and it collapses. And that's been happening. You know. Yeah, give it to... He's been very nice to me, so I won't repeat your remark. He's been one of the ones very nice. Actually, I've had a number of them. They've been very nice to me. But every once in a while, they have to get aggressive because they have to pick up ratings. So Fox, we all respect Fox, and they came out with their big poll last night. And they have Trump at 39, up 11 points. So it went up 11 points since the debate, 11. And I said to myself, you know, I wonder, do they ever give me credit on these debates? Because we've had the debates, and every online poll, there are, I think, 11 of them. I had them, I gave them to everybody. But every online poll has me winning by a lot. And then you go on, you know, television, and say, well, Trump was okay. He was all right. But then you see that the big one, I go up by 11 points. That's a lot. And that's a lot. So we're at 39. Cruz is second at 16. Then you have, I think, quite a bit lower is others. I mean, I won't go through the names, but you get a lot of people. And then you have a lot of them in the single digits. And then you get down into the zero territory, close to zero. Very close to zero. That's Bush and others. He's an embarrassment. Then you have CNN. So you have CNN, 36 to 16. Think of that. 36 to 16. Then you have Washington Post just came out. ABC, Washington Post. Trump, 38, second, 15, third, 14, fifth, 10, or whatever. Monmouth poll. Oh, listen to this one. You love this. And they always, look at all those people back there. They're terrible human beings, I'll be honest with you. No, some are really good, actually, but many are terrible. And they're very dishonest people, I have to tell you. I mean, the failing New York Times, I got to tell you, they wrote a story. We have got such an incredible ground game, but you're only going to learn about it on February 1st, you know. But we have such a great ground game. But they write these stories, and it's so nasty. And it's always the same people writing. So here's the New York Times. They're failing as a paper, failing badly. New York Times buys the Boston Globe. They spend $1.3 billion to buy the Boston Globe. They sell it for essentially nothing. They got rid of it after years. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars in it. They computerized it. Oh, great. They brought it up to standard. They actually moved from one of the great buildings of the world, their original headquarters, into a building not so good. But they spent hundreds of millions of dollars in losses on the Boston Globe. They end up selling it for almost nothing. So, I don't know. Maybe they're in for $1.5 billion. Maybe they're in. Let's just take their purchase price. I don't know. So figure they're in for $1.3 billion. Let's say they sold it for 50 or 70, $75 million. So they took a loss of $1 billion something. Okay? Then they have an office building. One of the most incredible, most beautiful places. It's like a cathedral of journalism. Okay? A cathedral. They sell it to people I know very well in the real estate business. Smart guys, people smart. We need smart people. See, I know all the smart people. We're going to use the smart people to negotiate our deals, right? So, the New York Times, I call it the failing New York Times. I call it the failing at New York Times. I put it in the Twitter. They are so dishonest, but a lot of them dishonest. I mean, Washington Post is very dishonest. But that's a whole thing, because the person that bought it uses that for influence so he can keep the taxes down in the company that he runs, okay? That's the way it works. That's the way it works. But let's stay in the New York Times for a little while. So the New York Times loses a fortune on the Boston Globe, beyond money. And now it's in financial difficulty, right? The New York Times sells its office building, which they should have never, it's not an office building, it's a magnificent cathedral to journalism, with all the great publishers, because the New York Times, you know, phenomenal. But now it's in big trouble. You know, it's like a lot of problems. So New York Times sells this building for, I believe, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong back there, but I believe about $150 million. And the people that buy it flip it, not very long thereafter, for $500 million. Actually, I think it was more, but let's say $500. So they sell it for $150, and they need the money desperately. They sell it for $150, and it gets flipped for over $500 million. Okay, so you get Boston Globe, where they lost like $1.3 billion or more, and you've got the office building where they sell it, and the people flip it I think a number of years later, for tremendous price. Got a tremendous price. And then they tell you about how to run a campaign. Now, can you believe it? And they give phony numbers and so dishonest, so dishonest. And I like, you know, the advantage I have is I can call people out. I can call people out. So whether it's the Times or the Wall Street Journal, I can call them out, you know. I can call them out, and I do. I like to call them out. I don't care. What difference does it make? I mean, if this thing doesn't work for me, it's fine. It's fine. I love you anyway. Bye-bye. I'm going to go relax. Okay? 3.5 hours I flew to be with you people today. And now it's 3.5 hours back. I flew in from Florida. Somebody said, oh, you know what? That's a great group, but it's a smaller venue. Listen to this. One of my people who meant well. Don't worry. It's not Chuck and it's not Sam. They wouldn't have the guts. You know what I'm talking. No, one of my people said, oh, it's a smaller venue. Don't worry about it, Mr. Trump. We can just do that another time. I said, how many people? They said like 1,000, 1,500 maybe. Yeah, probably 1,500. So, and it was going to be 400 or 500. So, but we have a lot more people than they anticipated, because it's, you know, it is a beautiful place, by the way. But they said smaller venue. I said, I can't, right? Beautiful. I like it. No, I like it. It's even got good sound. We go to some places where I'm screaming into a mic because the sound is so. But they said, Mr. Trump, don't worry about it. We'll call the people. We'll tell them they'll come. We'll come another time. I said, are they expecting me? Totally. I said, I'm coming. Are you crazy? I can't do that. I can't do that. So I told you the story of the New York Times. Their headquarters building a disaster. They're thinking a disaster. And then they write articles telling me this and that and that and that, you know. And I've made a fortune. I mean, I've made a fortune. And the reason I tell you that, I made a lot. I never in my wildest dreams ever thought I was going to make what I made. Billions and billions of dollars, the best assets, very little debt, tremendous cash flow. The reporters were so disappointed when they went to the federal election, right? Where you file all these papers. I have almost 100-page report on financial. They were so, hello, are you with the New York Times by any chance? How did these people get in here? Who are you shooting for? I think now they're shooting for they're probably shooting actually for the Wall Street Journal. They like that story about the New York Times. But anyway, just keep shooting, fellas. Don't worry about it. It's amazing. I don't think this ever happened before. That's okay. Look, here we have NBC. They're supposed to be back there, but that's okay. So it's been an amazing period. I've had so much fun doing this. And the fun is meeting the people. We've had crowds. I mean, in Dallas, we had 20,000 people. In Mobile, Alabama, we had 35,000 people. By the way, in different places in Iowa, we're setting records. Here, we're setting a record. In different places in Iowa, we're just setting records. And I don't mean records like by 2 people more. No, I don't mean by 2 people. I mean, we quadruple. And I mean, if people, they come up here, they'll have 20 people, 30 people, 40 people, if they're lucky. And you look at the kind of crowds. Look up here. I mean, look at the kind of crowds we have. And it's just an honor. And the thing that amazes me and impresses me the most, and I had no idea, I go around all over the country. We had 20,000 in Oklahoma. Every record has been broken by me in Iowa. In New Hampshire, same thing. It's been incredible. Massachusetts, I'm at 52. Now, Tom Brady likes me, so that helps, right? Tom Brady is my pal. Tom Brady's good. Tom Brady said Trump's a winner. I mean, he's a winner. When Tom Brady says you're a winner, that's a good feeling because he's great. He's a great guy. I'll tell you what, he's a great guy. That's what he is. He's really a great guy. But we're doing well all over. But I got to know the people, and I got to know the vets. So many vets are being treated so badly, and I got to know the vets. We're going to treat them great, believe me. Believe me. We're going to treat our vets great. And we're going to make our military really, really, really strong. And, in many ways, it's the best investment you can make. Because if you make it really strong, really adept, really good, really powerful, you're not going to have to use it, folks. That's the way it works. You're not going to have to use it. Nobody's going to mess with us. It's the cheapest thing we can do in so many ways. Instead of these things that go on forever and we don't know how to fight. And I've been saying for years, get the oil, right? Has everybody heard it? Now the other day I'm hearing the candidates. They used to say, isn't that ridiculous? I've been saying, get the oil, take away the wealth from ISIS, right? I've been saying that for 3-4 years. Now, I actually said something different. I said, don't go into Iraq. 2003, 2004, headlines. Trump says you're making a mistake. You're going to destabilize the Middle East, all that. Okay, so I'm right. I should get points for vision, but I'm sure they'll never do that. Nobody ever writes that story. I mean, they never write it. I say it all the time, but they never write it. They only write the bad stuff, right? But there's not too much bad stuff. So don't go into Iraq. So we go in. I said you're going to destabilize the Middle East because Iran and Iraq were the same militarily, right? And they'd fight. They'd always fight. That's all they do. They fight. They like to fight. We don't want to fight. We're better at fighting than they are, but we don't want to fight. No, we're better. We're better than anybody. We're better. We had the right leadership. But we're better. But they like to fight. They've been fighting forever. And they go 10 feet this way, 10 feet that way, 10 feet this way, 10 feet that way. They take a rest. They rest for a couple of years, then they start again. They were the same. Remember Saddam Hussein, he used the gas, and they complained, you're not supposed to use gas. They used gas. Okay, after a little while, they stopped. They held each other in check. And I said, you know what? I don't know about weapons of mass destruction, which turned out to be a fallacy, but you're going to destroy the equilibrium. You're going to destroy that whole balance of the Middle East. Because I've been watching these guys fighting. My whole life, they've been fighting. So I said, you're going to destroy it. Well, we go in, we decapitate the one. We spend $2 trillion. Now, I've been saying $2 trillion for 2 years, by the way. I know one thing. It hasn't gone down. It could have gone down if they did what I said, which was keep the oil. My man. It could have gone down if they kept the oil. See, I didn't say bomb the oil. I said keep the oil. And give some of it to the vets and the families and the wounded warriors who have been so badly hurt. But no, seriously. Now, of course, with oil prices being down so low, it's not quite the same thing, but it's still good. And a lot of people think that maybe OPEC is pouring out oil because they want to destroy a lot of companies. They want to destroy companies. It's a theory. Got to think about it. You heard the theory, anybody, where OPEC is pumping out a lot of oil because they want all these companies. There's a glut of oil. There has been for years. But it used to be over $100 a barrel. Now it's really dropping down, 35, which I love personally. But the oil companies are getting hurt. A lot of guys are going to go out of business. And, you know, there's a theory that OPEC does that in order to drive everybody out of business. And then they cut back and the oil price goes up and they make a fortune and they have a monopoly again. But who would ever think? These are our friends, right? They would never do that. They would never do that. So who knows? It's a theory. I personally think they're just trying to make as much money as they can. Okay, personally. But there is that theory out there. So I look at what's going on and I look at the decisions that are being made about running our country. I look at a Sergeant Bergdahl, I call him the 5-for-1, where he's a traitor, a dirty, rotten traitor, when you think about it, where we lose 5 people, probably 6, dead, great young people. I see the mothers and fathers on television talking about how great their son was, etc., in this case, sons. But I watch the people, they're like devastated. Their lives are just a disaster. It's just horrible. Talking about how great, showing pictures. Killed looking for this guy that we shouldn't even want. Now, when we made the deal, we knew he was a traitor because they had a general and a colonel there talking to everybody that knew him. And they knew he left, and he was a traitor. So we lose 5 or 6 people, and we make a deal. We knew this. So we give them 5 of the worst killers that are right now all back on the battlefield. You've been seeing it. 5 of the people they've wanted for 9 years. We release them and give them back for one dirty, rotten traitor that I'd like to make sure this guy, frankly, I'd drop him right back in the middle of the area that we took him from. You want to know the truth? I'd love that. But... and now I'm hearing he may not get any prison time. Can you believe it? So I always say this. 50 years ago, he gets a bullet, right? 25 years ago, we started getting a little weaker. Probably doesn't get a bullet. Probably gets a hell of a long term in jail, though. Maybe the rest of his life. 10 years ago, started getting a little weaker. Probably 10, 15 years. And today we're talking about... oh, well, he didn't feel good. He decided he didn't want to do this. He, had a headache. And he's really regretted his decision. I don't know if you saw him. He didn't like the orders he was given. Can you believe how stupid and weak and ineffective our country is being? So it's very sad. So I call him the 5-for-1. I mean, he's a 5-for-1 president. He makes these horrible deals. He doesn't know. That's a deal. See, that's a deal. It's people, but it's a deal. We get Bergdahl. And they get 5 people that they want. That's a deal. Iran deal, right? Now, 2 weeks ago, I just thought, and it just came into my mind. I have a nice mind. But 2 weeks ago, it's the first time I ever thought of it. I don't think I've ever said it. I used the Iran deal as an example of the art of the deal in reverse. It's a deal made by the New York Times. This is a deal. The New York Times probably thinks it's a great deal. So think of it. We give them $150 billion. We give them all sorts of things that they never thought possible. During the longest negotiation I've ever seen, lasted for years, Kerry, our great genius, he's walking in. I would like to have this. No. Oh, okay, we'll take less. Okay. First of all, he should have walked in there day one. He should have said, we want our prisoners back. They would have said no. It's true. Day one. Not now. Now. We want our prisoners back. And they would have said no. And then you walk. You say, sorry. And you double up the sanctions. Within 24 hours, they call you back and they say, you got your prisoners. Let's get going. Then from day 2, you don't say this day 1. You say this day 2 because you don't want, just worry about the prisoners. Now you get the prisoners out 3 years ago. They would have been out for nothing. Now they want to start a negotiation to get our prisoners. Can you believe it? The deal's done. Why didn't they put this in? These are stupid people we have leading us, folks. I mean, I want to be nice. These are stupid, stupid, stupid people. No, it's so unbelievable. It's so unbelievable. So think of it. But now I say to myself, we don't get our prisoners. We give them $150 billion. They say as the excuse for not getting the prisoners, and I'm not even saying the prisoners are number one priority, because to be honest, nuclear is very important and we have to get, you understand. But you get it for nothing. You get our prisoners back. I met with the wife of the pastor, wonderful guy. He's in one of the worst prisons in the world. She doesn't know how he is. She's a wonderful woman, really nice woman. She can't believe that they didn't come back. So we don't get our prisoners. They get 150. We have to give them 24 days notice if we want to check a nuclear site. We have to give them 24 days. Why? 24 days. We think you're building nuclear. Oh, okay, come back in 24 days after we sweep up the place, right? Let's move that stuff out or move it over here. But the 24 days doesn't click in until you go through a whole process. So the 24 days, I don't know, I guess it could be a year, 6 months, it could be forever. But the best of all, on a certain site, certain areas, they have the right to self-inspect. In other words, they're going to self-inspect. We think you're building nuclear here. Oh, let us go check, and we'll call you back tomorrow. No, we promise we're not. Can you believe how stupid we are? How stupid. And Obama put down as one of his achievements the deal with Iran. No, yesterday he said one of his achievements. I see it, one of his great achievements, the deal with Iran. A child, is there anybody here under the age of 5? Because anybody here under the age of 5, you are, hold that beautiful girl up. You could have, hold her up. Is that your daughter? Son, daughter? Right there, yeah. She could have made a much better deal. Do you agree? She could have made a much better deal than our president made, believe me. She could have. Believe me, she could have. Anybody could have. And he puts it down as an achievement. Oh, no, I see it. Well, 12, I have no doubt about then. She said she's 12, and she's beautiful too, by the way. But you know what? Anybody could have done it. What we did is incredible. We've given every single, but that's just the way we are. That's just the way we are. So all of that stuff is going to change. I mean, the one problem is, assuming I get in, if I get in, the money's gone. The money's gone. 150 billion is gone. I can do everything better. I'll renegotiate. The money's gone. 150 billion. They don't have to develop nuclear anymore. They can buy it. Why would they develop it? They can buy it better than they can develop. We are absolutely run by incompetent people. It's got to stop. And the last time I looked at running, and Romney was running, and he was very nice, but something happened to him at the end. I don't know what happened. He went away on a vacation or something. Because I thought it was going to be a close race, but you had a failed president, and that should have been won. I think in many ways it's easier than this one. You had a failed president. And for some reason, I would call their people, I'd say, why isn't he going on Leno? Because in all fairness to Obama, he went on Leno, he went on Letterman, he was all over the place. And Romney was like, well, where was he? Anyway, he lost. So I went with McCain, he lost. I went with Romney, he lost. They both lost. And this time I said, we're going to do it ourselves, folks. We're going to do it ourselves together. We're going to do it ourselves. We're going to do it. It has to be done. It has to be done. So anyway, let me talk about Iowa for a second. You know, I'm for ethanol, okay, and I think I'm like the only one. There aren't too many people, but I was with them the other day, and they are great people, and they're doing a great job, and they're employing a lot of people. And other people are for other forms of energy. And if they're from Texas, I'm not blaming them, but that's the way politics works. But I think you people are going to be for me, okay? But in Iowa, a couple of ethanol people. In Iowa, we have CNN, right? 33 for Trump, 20 for Cruz, who's in second place. In the Quinnipiac poll, we have 28 for Trump, 27 for Cruz. In the PPP, I'm leading in that one, just came out. PPP, Public Policy Polling, very good, very respected. I'm leading in that one too. And the only one I'm not leading in is this stupid Des Moines Register. What a... And you know, it's interesting. What a terrible paper. What a terrible... No, it's disgusting. Hey, look, it's a dishonest paper. No, I don't believe their number. I'll be honest. I mean, how can we be leading in CNN where they hire the finest pollsters in the world, and CNN were leading 33-20, and with this, and here's the bad part about the dishonest press. I never read about CNN. I never hear about CNN. I never hear about PPP. I never hear about Quinnipiac. It's every story is Trump is down in the Des Moines Register, but all over the country. They never talk. I say, what about CNN? And I guarantee you CNN spent a lot more money. It's big stuff, right? I said, what about CNN? Why aren't you talking about CNN? You don't tell me about CNN. All you tell me about is this stupid newspaper that, frankly, is going out of business, I hear or I think. I mean, think of it. We don't even let them come into our sessions. Now, they can be. There's somebody, but we don't give them press credentials. They're terrible. I mean, do you think they like me if I don't give them press credentials? I don't think so. I'm just the only one in the country, I think. Yeah, maybe I'll do that with the New York Times. I like that. So, you know, it's one of those things. But we're doing great. We're doing great in Iowa. Now, in all the other ones, we're leading, and we're leading big. So here's what's happened. And it's, to me, very interesting. When I started this journey, I'd sort of finished this way on the polls. But, and again, every single polling agency that studied the debate, and to the best of my knowledge, there are 11 of them. Drudge, great guy. He is a great guy. He's got a great company. Really, really respected. Time Magazine. Now, you know, they don't like me because they didn't pick me as the person of the year, and they should have, right? I will say this. Even, I don't take a view on it, but even people that hate me, when they're sitting around the table, the pundits, they all were predicting, like unanimously, that Trump was going to get it. And instead, Merkel got it from Germany. And what has she done for Germany? Germany's a mess. She's ruining Germany. They should have spent the same money on doing a safe zone someplace in Syria and stop this migration. And by the way, they're not coming here. They're not coming here. Believe me. They're not coming here. So we have all of these polls, and of the 11 polls that we had everything. Slate, we had guys, PBS, public broadcast, you know, I mean, all of these great, and I won every single one of them. And then I watched television. Trump was not as good tonight. He's off his game a little bit tonight. I said, but I won every poll. And then most people said that was my best performance. You know, Bush was easy because, I mean, he was just feeding me the stuff that it was written out for him. Here, Jeb, memorize this line and say it. And then I said, I have 42 and you have 2. And you started here next to me, and now you're down there, and by the next time you'll be off the stage. Right? And this poor guy does an ad, and he puts in his words, but he doesn't put in my words. That's a little, wouldn't you call that false advertising? I think so. So anyway, it's been amazing. But when I started the journey, and it's been an amazing journey, because it takes guts to run for president. I will say that. It takes guts. It's not easy. And all my life I've heard, if you're a successful person, you can't run. You know, you've done so many things. I mean, you take a guy like Obama, he never did anything. He never did anything other than buy a house, right? He bought a house, which is a very questionable transaction, right? But he never did anything. That's true. Never did anything. So, you know, there's nothing to say, oh, gee, I do hundreds of deals. The deals come out of my ears, and they're good deals. Most of them are phenomenal deals. And by the way, the ones that are bad because the market changed, I made them okay too, or in some cases I made them better than if they were good. I take a deal. That's the sign of a deal maker. When you can take something that's a disaster and make it better than if things stayed good. When the economy crashes, like I've had deals where I do it, everything's going great, then the economy crashes, not my fault. And I go back, I do a number in the banks. Oh, the poor banks. But I do a number in the banks and this and that. And I end up doing better than if the deal was good. I have a couple of them. I'm very proud of those deals. I can't put a trophy up because I can't talk about them, but they're great. But that's what you need. That's a sign of a real somebody. And we have, with the 19 trillion in debt, now going up to 21 trillion. 21 trillion, you know how much money that is? And here we are, and we have somebody that says, Donald Trump is brilliant. Donald Trump is good. Donald Trump is a leading candidate. You know, he feels good about me. I feel, frankly, good about him. I think that we can do things with Russia that are to our advantage, not to our advantage. It's a mutual advantage. And then I have people, now they're jealous as hell because he's not mentioning these people. He's not going to mention them. So they're jealous as hell. So a couple of them came out with, oh, well, you don't want to be friends. Oh, no, we don't want to be friends. No, we want to spend another $5 trillion continuing to fight. We got to be smart. Now we got to really be smart because we don't have money anymore. You know, we're a poor nation. We're a debtor nation. And we could be on a bubble, and that bubble could crash, and it's not going to be a pretty picture. You know, the market's gone down big league the last couple of weeks. But we could be on a big, fat bubble, and if that bubble crashes, it's a problem. By the way, when I got on the plane today in Florida, I have children that are fantastic. But I have children that have grandchildren. I have grandchildren. And Don, my son, said, Dad, I'd love to go with you. I said, really? Oh, long flight. He said, no, I'd love to go. Can I bring 2 of the kids? And he did. So could I ask? And by the way, he's a big Second Amendment guy. He's a big hunter. He's a big NRA guy. So am I, by the way. So am I. He's a great marksman. He's a great shot and really knows. And he does some business with some of the folks over here. Where's those guys? Such a great gun company here. But Don, come on up. Don and my grandchildren. Come on over here, Don. Come on. This is Kai, and this is Don the Third. And this is Vanessa. Vanessa's Don's wife. Say a few words, Don.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, first and foremost, it's great to be here, especially this time of year. Unfortunately, I'm wearing a suit and not Carhartts or camo. I would much rather be in a tree stand right now in Iowa. So, but no, it's really amazing. Thank you for the great support. I really look forward to my hunting season hasn't gone in Iowa yet. I'm coming back in January to enjoy a little bit of the free time that you guys offer here, and your deer are a lot better than mine in New York, so I can't wait to be back here for a week in January. I won't even be on the campaign trail. I'm just here hunting, so it's going to be fun. But thank you so much for this. It's great to be here. It's great to see the support you're showing my father. It really means a lot, and I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas. You want to say something? This one's not shy, so she wants to say something.
Hi. Hello. My name is Kai. Thank you for supporting my grandpa, and thank you for being here on this beautiful day. Have a very good Christmas.
See, people, that's genetics. Not afraid of the microphone. A lot of people would be very afraid of that. So thank you so much. Donnie, do you want to say something? All right.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
I think Santa's going to be good to them. So Merry Christmas again, folks. Have a Happy New Year, and thank you again for all your support. It really means a lot to us.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. He's a good guy. He's been good, but he loves the hunting, Second Amendment. You know, it's very interesting when you look at Paris, and I say this to people because I come in from New York, and a lot of people say, oh, gun control, gun control, gun control. I say to them, okay, so in Paris you lost 130 people. They have the strictest gun laws in the world. Just about, they say. I mean, you can't have a gun. They had the magazine, same thing happened a number of months ago. So guys walk in with guns. They don't have guns. Nobody has a gun. And I say this to these people that are trying to, like, persuade me. They can't. Impossible to. I'm a Second Amendment guy. I can't. It's terrible what's going on. And they know I'm right. They can't win the argument. So I say, let's say in Paris we had 2 or 3 guys, just 2 or 3 people with guns strapped to their ankle or their waist. I'll tell you what, it would have been a whole different story. You wouldn't have 130 people and plenty others going to die because they're so mortally wounded. They're so badly wounded. Got a lot more going to die. And if there were a few, like this big guy right in front, boy, if you had a gun strapped on you, what do you think? They were in trouble, right? You're going to go down fighting, right? You better, and you're going to take them down with you, or at least they're going to be really badly hurt. I don't get it. I don't get it. Then you look at this woman who came over here radicalized, and she did on a fiancé visa. Do you ever hear of these things? Fiancé. Oh, it's a beautiful couple, lovely, they're going to get married. Isn't that wonderful? Not like this couple over here. A wonderful couple is going to get married. Oh, fiancé visa. She's radicalized. They never checked her social media. I check my social media for people. They never checked her social media, and they never checked anything. I mean, she just came over. And she either radicalized or the kid was already radicalized. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. And they went in and they shot 14 are dead, and others are probably going with them. Maybe it's more than that even now, but there's some very badly hurt people, badly wounded. And if there were a couple of people with guns in there, it would have been a different story. At least they would have had a chance, right? Then you have the soldiers. We're on a military base. You had 5 soldiers. One of them was like the highest decorated. I mean, this is a real soldier. And the others were all terrific soldiers. Very adept at weapons, but it was a gun-free zone. On a military base, who ever heard of a gun-free zone? We trust these people. Think of it. We trust these people with our lives, and now we have these areas where you're not allowed to have a gun. By the way, first day in office, we end that. Believe me, we end that. First day. And a guy just walks in and blows away 5 great military people that are extremely terrific soldiers. You can't be a great soldier. You don't have a gun, you don't have a gun. If he's standing there with weaponry, you don't have a gun. I say to my people, I say to these guys, I say, wouldn't it be good if they had guns in Paris? Well, Don, we don't think so. I said, but you don't understand. There'd be somebody to shoot back. The bad guy is always going to have it, okay? You're not going to stop that. I mean, Paris, you can't have it. In France, you can't have it. Tougher than any law you've ever seen. Tougher than anything you've ever heard of. 130 dead. More dying. Not a shot fired back at these guys. And then the press calls the guy a mastermind. The guy with the dirty hat, he calls him a mastermind. They call him mastermind. The mastermind. And then we're worried about the internet taking our kids, and we're hearing about a mastermind. The kids are saying, oh, it's like Robin Hood, mastermind. And I've been lecturing the press on it, because it's a good thing I got so much press all the time. I've been lecturing the press on it. I've been saying, don't call him a mastermind. He's not. I'm guaranteed he's a low IQ guy. He's a dumb guy. He puts people in there. They go in together. They start shooting people. What do they do? What do they get? They get nothing. They got killed. That's what they got. And by the way, the French police did a good job. And the LA police did a great job. Our police are not being treated properly in this country. They're not. They're not. And say what you want about France. I think those guys did a great job also. But our police, they did great. They don't get the proper treatment. They don't get the respect that they have to get. And you see one bad apple out of a whole country. You see one bad apple once every 2 or 3 or 4 months on television. And they get tainted by that. That's a tiny, tiny fraction. Without our police, this country would be in total bedlam. And we have to take care of our police. We have to cherish our police. They're not happy. They're not happy. So when I started off, I was talking about trade with China, how China's ripping us off, which they are. I mean, like big league. We have trade deficits that are so enormous. Nobody even knows. The government reports these numbers. I'm hearing $505 billion now. I used to say $400 billion. Now I'm hearing last year $505 billion. We don't even know. We have no idea what it is. I mean, these guys can't do Obamacare website. It costs $5 billion and it doesn't work. And Obamacare, by the way, deserves. We're going to repeal it. We're going to replace it. 100%. 100%. We're going to repeal it. We're going to replace it. But think of Obamacare. It's dying of its own weight. Now, I've always said that was going to happen. We have a Supreme Court justice appointed by Bush, unfortunately. But we have a Supreme Court justice, Roberts, who should have never done what he did. He did in order to be popular in the Beltway. That's why he did it. To be one of the Beltway people. That's why he did it, folks. I'm a very smart guy. I'm a very good student. I can read really well. There was no way he could have come down with that decision. No way. No way he could have done that. He did it twice. Now, the first time would have killed it. The second time would have mortally wounded it. It would have died quickly. But the first time especially, but both times he should have voted against it. He didn't. Because he wanted to be popular with the circle, okay? That's why, in my opinion. What do I know? In my opinion, okay? Now, And the other judges, a couple of the other judges, I mean, I hear, who knows what happens there. But I heard one of them wouldn't speak to him for a long time and was very angry at him. What he did was wrong. But I talk about Obamacare. I talk about the $5 billion website, which is to me incredible because it's so stupid. It's so bad. I'll give you one. A friend of mine called up. He said, would you do me a favor? Would you talk about the Wellman rink in Central Park? And I don't want, it's been a long time, but basically it was a rink. He always says, but he's watching the speech tonight and today. And I said, I'll do it. He said, it's the best story. It's not huge numbers or anything, but it tells you. And it had to do in the Koch administration when he was the mayor of the city. We had a rink, couldn't get built. 7 years, ice skating. It's an ice skating rink. Took them 7 years. They spent tens of millions. They were spending money like it was hand over fist. And I have a daughter, Ivanka, who's great. And you know Ivanka. And she said, Daddy, when can I go ice skating? After about 7 years, I said, baby, let me go on. So I call up Koch. I say, I'm going to do it. And he really gave me a lot of resistance. I mean, he was not the greatest human being in the world, believe me. A lot of resistance. Because in a way, he didn't want me to do it well because I'd be showing him up. This is a politician. Here he's getting killed. He was being killed in the press. Absolutely killed with this rink. They're way over budget by many, many times, beyond anything you can imagine. They had stupid people, incompetent people, people that shouldn't have been doing it. I went to him, I said, do it. He said, no, I don't want to do it. I said, what are you wrong? What's wrong? Believe me, I did a number on him, and he ended up giving it to me very reluctantly. I'll tell you that. I take it over. I got it done in 4 months. And I mean, I still operate it today, many years. No rink in the world does the business that we do there. It's been a fantastic thing. But I got it done. Got it done in 4 months. If I didn't do it, it would have been 10 more years, I'm telling you. And my friend said, you got to use that sort. Private goes in, does it. I did it fast. I did it quick. Much better. And by the way, of the money I spent, I did it for $1.8 million. They were in there for close to 20. They don't even know. And it would have been 30, 40, 50. I did it for $1.8 million. I had trucks lined up all the way to Harlem. That's miles. Concrete trucks. Because you want to do one contiguous pour. You don't want to pour and then stop, pour and then stop. But the problem was that we're using the wrong plan. They had to do an ice skating rink, they hired an engineering company from Miami Beach, right? Where it's 100 degrees. And he did refrigerators. He didn't do ice, he did refrigerators, which is fine. So he came up with a plan to do Freon. Now Freon is gas, that's where it goes along. And they had miles and miles of pipe, because it's a very big surface, 4 or 5 times bigger than this room, I would say, at least. So they have miles of this beautiful copper tubing. And if there's one little pinhole, it's not going to work because the gas is going to escape, right? One little pinhole. So they put down a lot of it, and the next day it's stolen because it's copper, right? Interesting story. Then they do it again and again and again and again. And stolen. Then they put police around it, stolen. They put the wrong police. If we had our police, it wouldn't be stolen. My police, believe me, it's not going to get stolen. But stolen so much. Every time they put it down, it would get stolen over a period of a month. And the problem was then they were pouring little sections at a time. They'd pour a section like the size of this stage. And then they'd do another one and another one. And then it would be stolen, so they'd have to wait till it got fixed. A disaster. And then when it was built, the one side was this much higher than the other side. Now it's water, right? So the one side was like a lake. You couldn't make it cold. But that didn't matter because you couldn't make this side cold either because the pipe had hundreds and hundreds of leaks in it. So they opened it up and they couldn't make ice. And it was a disaster. And I said, look, I'll fix it. And the first thing I did, a friend of mine has something to do with the Montreal Canadiens ice hockey team, right? Montreal, Canada. We can go outside country every once in a while, right, folks? I mean, if you want ice, wouldn't the Montreal Canadiens, as they say, Montreal Canadiens, but wouldn't the Montreal Canadiens be a good team to, call, right? Not Florida, I don't need Florida. They don't make ice in Florida. I know Florida, I love Florida, but I don't want an engineer from Florida. So I called the Montreal Canadiens. Oh, we have a great engineer, we'll send him down. Sends him down. He looks, he goes, oh my God, I can't believe they're using Freon. No, all you want to use is plastic pipe, cheap, and you want to use water. And in the water you put salt. It's called brine. And the reason you put the salt, because the water can't freeze. Like salt water. You don't see frozen oceans too much. Okay? You still do, even despite global warming, you still see, but you don't see too much. Don't forget, Obama says that global warming is the single biggest threat to our nation, not ISIS. No, think of it. He said that the other day. Global warming is the single biggest threat to this country. I actually just turned the television off. You can't stand listening to it anymore. Okay. Oh, you can't stand it. Can you imagine? Not China, who's killing us economically, and by the way, building islands in the South China Sea and no environmental impact statements. They just ripped that thing apart. But anyway, so I go with the ice. He said, no, you just want hose, and you couple up the hose. I said, what if it leaks? Doesn't matter. It's tied into the concrete because you pour the concrete over the hose. So if it leaks, it doesn't matter. It doesn't get through the concrete. But make it tight. Ideally, don't leak. He said, but the nice thing, nobody's going to steal the hose because it's plastic. It's nothing. I said, you're right. So we put miles of this stuff every 4 inches, back, forth, back, forth. I took, of the 1.8 million, most of it was demolition, by the way. So somebody said, well, but they gave you a head start. I said, yeah, head start. Most of the work I did was demolition. I had to take everything out. I had to take concrete that was this thick out. So I took it all out. We poured a beautiful 6-inch slab with beautiful hose in it. We tested the hose before we poured the concrete. We poured the concrete in one day. It was a 28-hour pour, contiguous. One day. These guys did a great job. One day, beautiful pour, flat. We measured it out with lasers going from one side to the other, dead flat. We put 4 inches, 3 inches of water in, turned on the machine. We had ice. It was amazing. And we then had an opening. And it took me 3 months, not 4 months, I say 4, but it really took me 3 months. And we had it open. And we had one of the most beautiful evenings ever. We had Peggy Fleming, Dorothy Hamill. We had every gold medalist there. I said, if you had a silver medal, you didn't qualify. Everybody was there. It was one of the most beautiful evenings I've ever seen in New York City. Everybody was there. And we did something great. And we did it fast. It would still not be built. We did it fast. And my friend loves that. He's a very rich guy. He's a very big guy. He said, Donald, that's the biggest story. Will you tell that story tonight? Because I watch you a lot, because look at all those cameras that are live back there with the red lights going. He said, would you do me a favor? Would you tell that story? Because I love that story. Because that story, even though it's, it's not huge money, but it tells you that story is what you do for government. There are so many things we can do for our government. When we see gas stations built in Afghanistan, right? You read about last week the $43 million gas station, and now it's for a different kind of gas. It doesn't work for what they need. 43 million. Does anybody in this room think they could maybe beat that deal? I think so. 43 million for a gas station in Afghanistan. So stuff like this, I'll be cutting it out. But when I started, I talk about trade. I talk about China. I talk about all these places that are just ripping us left and right, where we have these huge trade imbalances with Japan and China and Mexico, both at the border. And we will build a wall, and it will be an incredible wall, by the way. It will be a wall that works. We're going to build it. Illegal immigration, big on illegal immigration. And it was interesting. Ted Cruz has been very nice to me. But yesterday I heard him saying, we're going to build a wall. It's the first time I heard. Everyone wants to build a wall now. I'm the only one now everybody wants to build a damn wall. It's unbelievable. No, but Ted yesterday said, we're going to build a wall. And my wife said, because she likes Ted, she said, oh, he just said he's building a wall. They're all saying it now. They want to build a wall. It works. Believe me, just ask Israel. A wall works, okay? It works. So we're going to build a wall, and people are going to come into the country, but they're going to come in legally. They're coming into the country legally. And the great thing about me doing the wall is I know how to build walls. Of the politicians, they don't know how to. It'll end up being another Wallman skating rink. Believe me, the politicians can't build a wall. But we are going to build a wall. It's going to be a great wall, and we're going to have ourselves a great, great time watching our country heal. And we're going to redo those trade deals, okay? And those trade deals are going to be so good and so strong, and we're going to bring jobs back and all of this. And this is what I talk about. I talk about Ford Motor going to Mexico. I tell you the story, how it's horrible. I talked all about Nabisco moving into Mexico. They're moving their big plant. I say I won't have Oreos anymore. I talk all about these things. But now, since Paris, actually, I've changed a little bit because everyone knows I'm going to do good with China. I'm going to do good. I have Carl Icahn. I have the best businessmen in the world. And women. We have the best. We have the best. I said at the debate, I suggested, we invented the internet, but ISIS uses the internet better than we do. So I said, well, we should get our guys who are the best. We'll get the best guys in Silicon Valley. Nobody better than them. They invented it. How does ISIS use it better than us? And they get our youth to go over and become ISIS and kill people. And then we let them back. By the way, this is the other thing. Anyone goes over, joins ISIS, they ain't coming back, folks. They're gone. They're gone. Can you imagine? They go over, they fight for ISIS, they come back totally radicalized, and we let them back in the country because they have a passport. Can you imagine this? I can't even imagine. So during the debate, I said, either I'd knock it out in those areas, which I wouldn't mind doing, and then the audience started going like, boo, a little booey. I said, whoa, I'm talking ISIS areas. We're going to knock out the internet. They like freedom of speech. I said, you deal with ISIS. You want to give ISIS freedom of speech? I don't. Can you believe it? I mean, no, think of it. But forget that. I said what I like better is infiltrating it in those areas. I love that. So we know where they are, what they're doing, everything else. Then we blow the hell out of them. Okay? So when the polls come out, it's very interesting. I think because of my attitude on the border, because nobody can top me on the border, and good guy Ted, all fairness, all of these guys, Rubio, they're all trying to catch me. They can't catch me. Nobody can catch me on the border. I have that. It's done. When I brought up illegal immigration, when I announced, remember I brought it up? I took heat. Rush Limbaugh's a great guy, said he's never seen any human being take more incoming, meaning the press, than I did. And then he said, and then 2 weeks later he doubled down. He said it's even worse than he said. And I turned out to be right. They had Kate in San Francisco. Sanctuary city's over, by the way. Over. They had Kate in San Francisco, shot in the back by an illegal immigrant, shouldn't be there. They had Jameel Shaw, who's like this incredible guy, football scholarship, going to college, great father, great parents, great everything. Shot in front of his house, walking back home from a deli with a sandwich for his father. For no reason, just shot, because the guy wanted to shoot him. And they had so many, the female veteran, 66 years old, raped, sodomized, and killed in California 4 weeks ago. And thousands of other instances, thousands. It's far worse than what you thought. So we got to stop it. Now everyone's trying to come to my side. But when I first announced it, I was like an island all by myself. They were all putting me, oh, it's terrible what he said. Now they realize I'm right. And they're all trying to go over there. So what happens is when the numbers come up, I win on immigration by like 58 or something. I win on the economy by beyond, by many, many times. I mean, I'm like at 57 and the next guy's like at 7. By the way, if you win on safety and economy, the election's over. Let's have it tomorrow. But then they did a thing on terrorism. And I think because of my stance and there's a certain feeling I have that people understand, but because of my stance and probably because I'm very tough on the border and immigration, illegal immigration, I win on that by a massive amount, like by many, many times number 2. And I'm very honored by it, I'll be honest. The only thing I don't really win on, some people say he's not a nice person, but who cares, okay? Who cares? But you know what? No, they say, some of them say, although my popularity is getting much better, I'm actually a nice person, but I hate to see what's happening to our country. We need competence. We need competence. A woman came up to me, and I tell this story. A beautiful woman comes up to me, probably 60 years old, just a lovely woman. She said, Mr. Trump, I love you and I'm voting for you, but you may not be nice enough to be president. And I said, let me tell you, number one, I'm really nice, and I love people. I love people. But I'm very disappointed in what's happening in the country. But regardless of all of that, this isn't going to be an election on niceness anymore, even if I wasn't nice. This is going to be an election on competence and smartness and toughness, because otherwise our country is finished. It's finished. So what's happened is I used to talk all about China. We'll just trust me on that. We'll bring all our jobs back. Not all. We got to give them some, right? But we're going to bring back a lot of stuff. And we're not going to lose our jobs like babies. We're not going to lose them to so many other countries. But every country. Every country we lose to. And we don't win anymore. We just don't win anymore. So all of that stuff, everybody knows I'll be able to handle that. I have the best business people in the world. They're going to go. I'll take Carl Icahn. You take China. I'll name other names. So many people are endorsing me. The business people, the really smart. Those are the endorsements I want. I don't want Jeb Bush's endorsement, honest. I don't want his endorsement. It doesn't mean anything. He's not tough. He's not smart. I don't want those endorsements. I want endorsements from the absolute best. I want endorsements from the best, the richest, the smartest, the toughest, the meanest. They don't have to be nice. If they are, they are. But I know who they are. And when we're represented by people that are political hacks or donors, they're donors. These are people that give in order to get jobs. These are people that are special interest people, where they give millions of dollars to these crooked PACs. They're crooked PACs. They're all crooked, I think. I mean, they're in here running these elections. They're spending money like it's hand over fist. I'm self-funding. I got to compete with these guys. I'm all self-funding. These people, these PACs are crooked. These PACs are no good. Now, when guys give $5 million to a PAC, do you think they're doing that because they think of the candidate as good? They think of the candidate as a puppet. And if they didn't, they wouldn't give to him. They're puppets, every one of them. And if that person that gave the $5 million wants something, and if the candidate wins an election, and that person wants something that's adverse to the best interest of the country, 100% certain that the politician is going to do the job for the person and not for the country. It's the way that it is. It's just the way it is. And let's not say 100. Let's say 90. Let's say 80. Let's say 70. But what difference does it make? It's the way it is. That's the way it works. And that's why we're in such deep trouble. Because we're making deals for lobbyists, we're making deals for donors and special interests, and we're making deals like the recent deal that was done. Did everybody see the deal 2 days ago? The budget is a disaster. It was done so quickly. It flew through. It was a disaster. It was a disaster. More debt, more, it's just the same thing. I'm telling you, the word bubble, remember the word bubble, you heard it here first. I mean, I don't want to sound rude, but I hope if it explodes, it's going to be now rather than 2 months into another administration. Because honestly, you got yourself problems. We're printing money. We have debt like we've never had before. I mean, we're really going to be very soon a large-scale version of Greece. That's all it is. And then they pass a budget like that. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that they did it. And the Republicans had to pass it too, folks. I hate to say. You know, with the Democrats, we know what we're getting. I don't even blame them in a way. But the Republicans are supposed to stop it. They go to Washington, you elect them, other people elect them, and they're tough, and they're going to go, and they're going to do this. And then they look up at those beautiful columns and those beautiful vaulted ceilings and the angels painted on them, and they're saying, oh, baby, we've really arrived. Do you vote for Obamacare? I do. Do you vote for other things? Do you vote for this horrible budget that's going to put us further in debt? I do. I swear I do. They become different people. They never want to leave. And it's amazing. That will never happen with Trump. That I tell you. Never. Never going to happen with Trump. So we started talking about security. We started talking about borders. We started talking about trade and all the horrible deals. And I used to love giving the deals because it was so easy. The excavator, friend of mine, with the whole thing where he buys now Komatsu tractors because the yen has been so destroyed purposely by the Japanese government that Caterpillar could not compete. They couldn't compete. I talked about all of the problems that friends of mine have getting stuff into China. You know, they unload on us, but we don't unload on them. And have to pay tax, by the way. They pay tax. Going over there, you pay tax. Coming over here, no tax. We have such power over these countries because we are the source of their wealth. We built China. They took our money, they took our jobs, they took that base, they took the manufacturing. We built China. We rebuilt it. They've got bridges like the George Washington Bridge. They've got bridges like you've never seen. I mean, they have things that we don't even think. They've got airports you wouldn't believe. Then we fly into LaGuardia. They have potholes all over the place. Honestly, it's incredible. One thing I want to mention to you, though. So with Iran, we talked about the deal. But Iran, what they really did was even more brilliant. Because we spent the $2 trillion at least, and thousands of lives, and wounded warriors, and the wounded warriors are the greatest people. I mean, how they have smiles on their faces. They don't have legs, they don't have arms, and they're incredible. They're incredible people. Incredible people. But the Iran deal, and I told you, the Iran deal was terrible. But the great deal that Iran deal is they're taking over Iraq. That's 100 times, that's 1,000 times better than the deal they made with us, where we had incompetent people representing us. That's 100 times. That's 100 times. That's 1,000 times. And I just thought of it. I told you before. I just thought of it 2 weeks ago. Iran made the deal, and it's a great deal, and it's an amazing deal for them. But the deal they made that's unbelievable is we went in and lost thousands of lives, spent trillions, not billions, trillions of dollars. We decapitated Iraq. And now they're going in with our money. They're going in and taking over Iraq with the second largest oil reserves in the world, by the way. Unbelievable. And we let this happen. That stuff will never, ever happen if I become your president. That I can tell you. Never. So, just to conclude, it's been an amazing trip for me. It's been an amazing journey. We have the biggest crowds of anybody by far, and that includes Bernie Sanders, who, by the way, did you see what Hillary did to him? I told you, she's like a snake with no energy. No, she's like a snake. Here's this guy, this foolish guy, Bernie, super liberal, conservative. I don't know, you might want to call him a communist. They say socialist. Could be a communist. But anyway, this poor guy's up at the first debate saying, I don't want to discuss the emails. It's fine what she did. He gave his whole thing away, right? Gave it away. And then she zapped him. But he ends up getting back because I think it was only so much you could do. But that just shows you how vicious and disloyal that whole group is. Okay? When is she going to jail? Well, that's a good question. That's a very good question. I mean, honestly, she should not be allowed to run. And in a recent Fox poll, I beat her easily. By the way, she should not be allowed to run. She should not be allowed to run. She is being totally protected by a Democrat government. You know that. She should not be allowed to run. And we'll see what happens, but I don't think anything's going to happen. I think she's totally protected. And I think it's a disgrace, okay? I think it's absolutely a disgrace. So we'll see what happens, but it looks to me like she's protected. But I was really watching, but we'll beat her anyway, don't worry about it. And we'll beat her soundly, because she did a terrible job. I've been saying she doesn't have the strength and she doesn't have the stamina, which is true. She'll come here, she'll come to Iowa, she'll see like 4 people around a plastic table, right? They always use that plastic table. I don't know, do they bring it with them from New York? There's a table. But you'll have 4 or 5 people. They're all vetted out of hundreds of people because she doesn't want to get a bad question. And they'll ask little questions. How do you make pancakes? They ask these little questions. And then she leaves. Bye, everybody. Bye. And you don't see her for 5 days, right? You never see her. She goes away. She goes back home to sleep. She doesn't have the energy. I'm telling you. She doesn't have the stamina. She doesn't have the strength. You need to be president strong. You need strong. You can't play games. You've got all these countries that want to rip you apart. You've got all these insurgent groups. You have ISIS. They want to rip you apart. You can't have somebody that doesn't have the strength, the stamina. You can't have it. You can't have it. She's got to work 28 hours a day. She's got to work 40 hours a day. You got to work all the time. You can't take any rest. This country is in big trouble. You need somebody that's really smart and can really work and has stamina. We got to put it back together again. We're going to put it back together again. And that's the biggest thing. The people are so amazing in this country, and they don't believe those guys. It's amazing. If they believe those guys, I wouldn't be at 42. You know, I say to myself, how can I, they write bad stories, purposely bad. We have here, as an example, the best ground operation. You'll see, you can only see on February 1st. I mean, honestly. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll say, hey, we didn't make it. We didn't make it. But I think we're going to make it. I think we're going to win Iowa. And Iowa is very important to me. Because Iowa is very important. Because, it's sort of interesting. I was watching on television today. It was very interesting. And they had these, people around the table. And they call them the talking heads. And most of them said, Trump will never run. I ran. Oh, he'll never file his financials. I filed my financials, and they turned out to be amazing. Oh, they figured maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I'm not as rich as people think, right? So it turned out I was much better, much richer, which is good, because that's the thinking you need. Okay. He'll never file Form A. That's where you sign your life away. I filed Form A. So that was bad. Then I started, and before I ran, I was like at 2 or 3, because nobody thought I was going to run. My wife said, if you run, you'll win. Because people love you, and they trust you, and they think you're really smart, and they think you're going to get something done. She did. She's my pollster. Melania is my pollster. These guys spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a week on pollsters. I say, what do you need a pollster? These guys give you free polls every week. They give a new poll. It's 100 pages long. They spend millions. What do I need a pollster for? Politicians. They don't talk. They don't go to the bathroom without getting the approval of their pollster. It's true. But anyway, she said, no, if you run, you win. So, what do I know? And then I said, we got to do it. Because I see things happening that are so dumb. I said, so I'll do it. So I took a deep breath, and I said, I'll do it. So we started, and you start from practically nothing. And I polled very badly before I announced, because nobody thought I was going to run. Even when they said, if Donald Trump runs, people would write back, we don't think he's running. They would say, no, he is. We don't believe him. So, okay. So now I say, the only way I can test it is to actually run. Because they weren't believing when they put in if he runs. And they were saying he is running, and they said, but I didn't know that for sure, because I was getting like 4s and 3s. I was down in some of these guys' low territory. I wouldn't want to be there. And if I were in that territory, if I were them, those guys ought to get out, because they're wasting a lot of time. They're wasting a lot of airtime. They're not doing good for their brand. They're really not doing good for their brand. They ought to get out. It's time. When you're at this guy Pataki, he's been at 0 for months. He couldn't get elected a dog catcher in New York. The guy's at 0 for months, and he keeps staying and staying. And it's pretty sad, because some of them have missed filings on certain states, major states, because they didn't want to put up the money. When they're at 0, why would you put up money? It's not going to happen. So they didn't want to put up, so they missed their filing date. And there's nothing you can do about it, right? So they missed filing in certain states, and they didn't want to put up the money, or they couldn't get 10,000 signatures or whatever it was. So they're continuing to run. Now, if I were running the party, I'd say, look, excuse me, if you can't win the state of X, a major state, if you can't win Virginia because you're not allowed to go in, or if you can't win South Carolina, or if you can't win this one or that one because you didn't file, that means it's taken off your list. You're not allowed to be in the debate anymore. We have guys that didn't file that are still in the debate, and they're ranked at 0 and 1%. And we need more time. When we're talking about terrorism, I don't want to be given 30 seconds. Mr. Trump, in 30 seconds, what would you do about terrorism, sir? I said 30 seconds. So hopefully that will be, because we really do need fewer people in this thing. I mean, it should be, down. But one of the groups said today, they said, there's 2 paths. There's Trump over here, and then there's like a military path, and then there's another path. But Trump already has the military, because the military loves Trump, and they do, and I love them, by the way. So, and then he goes, so there's your mainstream path, meaning your politician, all talk, no action. So they go through, well, you have to win here, and you could be this one, it could be that one, it could be, I won't mention it, but it could be this, that, and they're going to fight. And that was it. Then the last guy said, but it's going to be awfully hard to beat him. He's got some lead. They hate to hear that. I think they hate to hear it because of me, but I also think they hate to hear it because they'd like to keep it closer because it's better for ratings. Maybe that's it, right? But we're going to do great. the Fox debate was the largest in the history of cable television. Largest rating, bigger than NFL games. The CNN debate was the largest audience, 23 million, in the history of CNN. In the history of CNN, they cover wars, they cover the big things, the big events, right? CNN, terrific. Fox, terrific. Largest in all of cable, forever. Largest in the history of CNN. Then the other day, even after we had these number of debates, 18 million people. It was like one of the largest, 18 million. And you know what, you've seen it like before. And they had a massive audience. And by the way, watch the Democrat debate tonight. It's really not the Democratic. They always say the Democratic debate. It's not the name Democrat. It's really the Democrat debate. They always put the Democratic debate. It's not the Democrat. They call it the wrong name because it sounds better. It's good for them. But it's the wrong name. They're not the Democratic Party. They're the Democrat Party. But it doesn't flow as well. So they want to take care of the Democrats. But watch tonight what they get. They'll get very little. They'll get very little. Compare it to 18 million people that we got a few days ago. And it was said that if it's Trump against Hillary Clinton, it's going to be the largest voter turnout in the history of this country. And I know that's true. And the reason I know that's true is that when Fox got 24 million, and when CNN for the next one got 23 million, and when CNN, after going through this for a long time, just got 18 million, they can't believe it. Just so you know, the networks never wanted the debates. They used to be like a wasteland. They were forced to take the debates at one time because they had to. Licensing and things like that. Nobody wanted to watch. Now it's like the Super Bowl of whatever. And now everybody wants a piece of it. They want to have more. They're calling, oh, can we have more debates? We want more debates. This was nothing. Now, I'm not saying because it's me, but it is, okay? It's totally. No, it is. I mean, compare those numbers to what it was 4 years ago. It's a joke. That was a small number, and this is a massive number. CNN went in advertising from $4,000 for a 30-second ad to $250,000. Think of that. From $4,000 for a 30-second ad to $250,000 for a 30-second ad. Made a fortune. So, okay, Variety said, they call it the Trump debate. It was because of me. If we win, that's why The Apprentice did so well. That's why Arnold's going to have a hard time. He's going to have a hard time beating Trump. And I'm very happy with Arnold, but I couldn't do the show anymore because of this. And I want Arnold to do well because I have a big chunk of that show. But it's going to be tough. What do you think of Arnold? How will Arnold do in The Apprentice? What do you think? Who do you like better, Arnold or Trump? I had a feeling you'd say it. So anyway, we will have people voting that never voted before. It's always been very embarrassing to our country because we always had a very small vote, a tiny proportion of our people vote. We will have people voting that have never voted before. And I think it was like that person. You better believe it. Good. Oh, he's pointing to you. We're going to have people that never voted before by the millions. It's just going to be like 24 million versus, nobody cares. We're going to have tremendous numbers of voters. No illegal immigrants are going to vote. Okay? They'll try, but we're not going to let them. That'll be the next move. All illegals. You probably saw in California where the illegals want to take over the city council. Can you believe what's going on with our country? Okay. We will have numbers like you've never seen. And I will get a lot of people on the Democrat side to vote for me. A lot of people are going to come across because they're tired of what's happening. And that stuff doesn't poll, by the way. That really doesn't poll. But we'll get stuff on we will have a massive turnout. And they just did a story on this. I think it was CNBC, but they did a big thing on this. Big poll. What will happen if Trump runs against Hillary? They said and they did a poll on this. It'll be the largest turnout in the history of elections. And a lot of those people that come out are going to be voting for Trump, far more than 50%. So we're going to win. But we have to get there first. So what you do, and I hope you can do this, February 1st, no matter what's going on in your life, if you get the worst news you've ever gotten, which hopefully that won't happen, You got to get out February 1st. You got to get to the caucus. You got to go out and get it done. You got to go out. We have an unbelievable team here. Unbelievable force. And I think it's going to be an amazing evening, but you got to go out. You got to say, gee, I don't want to watch that pro. You don't have a little period of time. That's what makes the caucuses so tough. You have that little window. But I hope you can go out, because I promise you one thing. I will make America great again. Okay? Thank you. Thank We will make America great again.